Hello, my name is Raimundo Biggs and welcome to this new Sim video. Today we are going to see how to answer your language and literature English A paper 2 comparative essay. Well, let's start with the basic. What is this English paper 2? Paper 2 is a comparative essay where students are asked to compare and contrast two texts studied in class based on 4 given prompts or questions. Then later on, we will see how examples of how are these questions and what you need basically to analyze from them. And this is very important. These two texts that you are going to choose to compare cannot be used on your higher level essay, the ones who are going to do this class in high level, neither in your individual oral. So these two texts cannot be repeated on your other assessments for the IB. Well, for those of you who are doing English in higher level, this paper 2 comparative essay is 25% of your grade, and for standard level is 35. So it's really important for those in standard level because it's a higher percentage of your grade. Well, the prompt or guiding question. It's the question on your statement that you will have to answer in your essay. This should be like the base of your entire essay and how you compare your both text. It must be included into your thesis statement. Then we're going to see how you can construct your thesis statement and how the prompt needs to be included in there. And throughout your essay, you will have to make reference to the prompt or guiding question. As our teacher always told us, it's very important that you mention constantly, not in order to be repetitive, but to be mentioning when you're argumenting or you're analyzing, coming back to the prompt because it's very important. Here I set up this image that says matchmaking for IB English paper 2 text. The ideas of your text are individually related to the prompt, but they are difficult to compare and contrast. This is very important because the idea is not that you choose the prompt and then you start analyzing one text and another. No, you will have to do to make a mix to compare both novels in your prompt and not deviating and just comparing one text with your prompt and the other one. You will need to find all these things that relate both novels. This is our examples of the prompts that you can be asked for. For example, consider why writers create characters who do not conform to norms in at least 2 of the works you have studied. Explore how women are represented as stronger than men in at least 2 of the works you have studied. Discuss how moral and or ethical issues are explored in at least 2 of the works. So with this prompt, you need to relate them with both of your novels. And as I tell you, the idea is not, that, for example, if you are talking about a women in Persepolis, just about one character and giving an entire analysis of one woman in Persepolis and then another one in other novel, like, for example, Atonement. No, the idea is that you are constantly comparing and contrasting both. This is going to be achieved if you follow the structure that we will see later on. Well, strategies. Here, I'm going to tell you the strategies that I used to study for this test, or at least to say what you can have studied before you have the prompt, because it's going to be, you will never know what the questions will be. But with this strategy, you can, be more prepared to the test. Create a list with different authorial choices from your novels that can be used to answer different questions. This is very important. I personally created a list of these authorial choices that I can be using for a variety, of themes. In my case, I chose the novel Atonement and The Bluest Eye. So in here I choose all the authorial choices from Atonement. What are authorial choices? These are decisions that authors make in the novel that have some meaning, that can be analyzed, For example, character construction, for example, metaphors, all these literary devices, symbolisms. So all of these are included in the novel for some reason, And for example, in Atonement, there's a clear symbolism of the fountain. This could be, I could have used that example in a variety if the prompt had a variety of themes like love, dreams, a fantastic world, childhood innocence, for example. Another symbolism is the Dunkirk evacuation. That I wrote it, and I could use that authorial choice if I've had a question about justice, injustice, ethics, inequality. So I really recommend you to sit and write 10 to 12 authorial choices of each novel, and write what themes you could use those symbolisms in if the prompt is similar. The same thing I do with the bluest eye. The blue eyes, of course, the title of the text is a symbolism. It could be used if the prompt was about race, about good versus bad, about culture, social norms, physical, appearances, the marigolds. For example, the metaphor, Choli, Pecola's father, is referred as Choli the animal. That could be also be used in, social norms, culture, moral, if villain. So these are the themes that if the prompt or the statement asked me for something, some of them, I could have used this metaphor, for example. Well, another strategy that I use is to create a thesis where you state your line of inquiry. So you need to create a thesis and the line of inquiry. But what I personally, what I used when preparing my paper twos was that I included the line of inquiry in my thesis statement, and that was very, very helpful because it will help me to, construct my argument, to structurate my essay. Well, this structure. Uh, you can use whatever structure, but I think this is the best one because in here you will have all the points for comparing both novels. Because if you analyze one and then another, maybe the examiner can think that it's not enough comparative, But if you use this one, you already have that point, So, for example, in paragraph 1, you do your introduction. You're going to see how to write a good introduction. Paragraph 2, you use your first argument for text 1 and 2 in the same paragraph. Then your second argument for paragraph 1 and 2 for text 1 and 2, and then your paragraph 4, your third argument for both texts. So in each of the body paragraphs, you need to include both texts, and you do the comparative exercise in each of the paragraphs. Well, introduction. Introduction structure. You first need to start with a catchy opening phrase in order, for the examiner to feel excited about what you're writing and to call his attention. Then you need to state the titles, the years of publication, the authors, and a brief summary of both of your texts. That is also something that I have memorized before doing my test. I remember that I had this, studied what summary I would give in order to, don't start thinking and summarizing the novel right in there. So that's also a strategy. You could bring memorized your novel, the year of publication, the author, and a brief summary. Because the summary, you need to include it whatever the prompt is. That is like one of the only things that don't change, so you can already have learned before you give the exam. An example of this catchy opening phrase, and then the thesis statement. An example of this catchy opening phrase, let's do with the question, the example number 2. Explore how women are represented as stronger than men in at least 2 works you have studied. Well, a catchy opening phrase will be, for example, in a lot of literary works, women have proved that true strength lies not in physical power, but in resilience. So this is like to catch the reader's attention, that in literary works, women have proved that strength lies not on physical power, but rather in resilience. Well, then the second part is what I already told you. This you could bring it, learn from home. And this is how I personally wrote. So, for example, this is shown in a lot of literary works. Women have proved that true strength lies not in physical power, but in resilience. This is shown in the novel Persepolis, 2000, written by Marjan Satrapi, and Atonement, 2003, written by Ian McEwan. Persepolis is an autobiographical graphic novel that narrates Marjan's childhood, etc., etc., etc. You summarize the novel. Meanwhile, Atonement narrates and you summarize Atonement. And then the thesis statement. Well, the thesis statement. The thesis statement is what is going to guide your analysis. It's literally your guide. It needs to reference the guiding question or statement plus the authorial choices you're going to analyze. This, I always included the elements that I would analyze into the thesis. And remember, you need to analyze the literary features, not narrate the story again. This is very important. This is why I told you, right? You will have, it's better if you already have identified all the authorial choices in your novels and which, themes or what they represent. And then if you see a question that is related to that, you only, put those authorial choices in there. But you cannot narrate, you cannot analyze things that are like basic. You need to have a deeper analysis, and that deeper analysis you will achieve it if you analyze what authors meant by having the symbolism of a fountain or anything. Well, so here we're going to do an example. We're going to continue with the one before with that question and with those 2 novels. So, through the construction of female characters that confront social norms, here, this would be my argument 1. This is an authorial choice. And for example, why is it an authorial choice? Because I said that both Satrapi and McEwan uses characters like Marjan's mom and Cecilia Tallis that confronts social norms. So later on, I'm going to analyze that, of course, in the argument 1, but I already stated at the thesis. So through the construction of female characters that confront social norms that are independent-minded, how McEwan and Satrapi construct independent-minded female characters, and the use of symbolisms like, for example, the veil in Persepolis. Satrapi and McEwan represent in their novel women that are stronger than men. So that is the relationship with the state. So you say through the use of authorial choice number 1, authorial choice number 2, authorial choice number 3, the authors, and then you give if they construct or not, or they represent or not why the prompt or the question is. So in this case, my three authorial choices, and that via those resources, Satrapi and McEwan represent in their novel that women are stronger than men. Well, the body. In your body, you will write 3 paragraphs in a PEE structure. You know this PEE structure, you're going to use it always for paper 1 and 2. In the point, you're going to state the main idea of your argument. In the evidence, you will provide textual evidence from it. You don't need to memorize it by letter, but rather, to mention it and not, textually, but mentioning what happened in the text. You aren't asked to provide some very to memorize your textual evidence. And then you do the analysis, and this is important. In the analysis, you need to relate your evidence with the thesis statement. How you evidence suggests what you have stated in your thesis. So, for example, if in my argument 2, I say that McEwan and Satrapi construct independent-minded women, I give examples of it in the novels. Then in the analysis, I will connect it with my prompt. So let's exercise with what is going to be our argument 1. That is going to be that construction of female characters that confront social norms, represent that women are stronger than men. Well, the point. Author construct characters like Marjan's mom and Cecilia Tallis that confronts social norms, therefore representing how powerful and fearless these women are. So here I'm saying, just providing the main idea of my argument for both novels. Then I'm going to provide the textual evidence. For example, in Persepolis, Marjan's mom, and this is, you don't need to memorize it. Marjan's mom went into protest against the new regime for that make the use of bail mandatory. She was against the government telling women what they need to wear or how they need to wear it. Once in there, the Islamic Republic, brutally repressed those women. But this shows how powerful women in Iran were. And then you do the explanation. The fact that Marjan's mom fiercely confronted the new regime law that makes the bail mandatory by public protesting it and being repressed show how powerful she was and how afraid men of the Islamic Republic were of these women's protest. And that, of course, the construction of this character, Marjan Satrapi, the author wanted to, represented that. And you do those explanations. Then in the same paragraph, you give the evidence and explanation of how Cecilia Tallis is a character that confronts social norms, and how in the explanation, how does that connects with your prompt, how that confrontation of social norms shows how Cecilia is a powerful woman, even sometimes more powerful than men, or a woman that could go against men. At last, when you've finished all your arguments with that structure of point, evidence, explanation, and then for text 2, another evidence and explanation, when you've finished your 3 arguments, you need to do the conclusion. In the conclusion, you need to restate your thesis statement. You need to answer your thesis statement. So, for example, if my thesis statement was through the construction of female characters that confront social norms, that are independent-minded, and that use of symbolisms, Satrapi and McEwan representing their novel women that are stronger than men. Here in the answer, I can, instead from restating, I can also answer these. All this evidence showed how Marjan and McEwan are authors that really wanted, to show powerful women in their book that contrast with men, etc. Uh, you give an answer to your thesis statement, or you restate it with with all the argumentation that has been given before, but of course very summarized. And then you do a little reflection on the topic. You say, well, all this shows how different authors from a variety of genres have represented powerful women. So there you can give a little bit more of your personal, touch, a little reflection on the topic. Well, I hope all of these content uh, could help you to write your paper too. And I wish you luck on all your mock tests and tests. Thank you very much.